In this video clip, I'm going to explain to you question 2.4 of the October 2014 paper. The question says, use the following diagram to illustrate the effect of an increase in interest rate on prices and production in the ADAS model. Remember to label your diagram, and that's for 3 marks. Right, so the first thing we have to do is we have to look at what model we are working with, because we want to label the axes. We want to show which variables we're going to show in this diagram. So the question says it's the ADAS model, aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. So we know on the vertical axis we show prices, and you can just show P, abbreviate it, and on the horizontal axis we show the income level. Use a Y to depict that. So prices on the vertical axis, income on the horizontal axis. Then we show the aggregate demand curve. And this is the original one, so we call it 1. And we show the aggregate supply curve. The original one, so we call it 1. And where these two cross, we indicate that is the equilibrium position, and that indicates our original price level and our original income level. Right, so now we've shown what the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model looks like, and that will be your first mark. Now the question says, illustrate the effect of an increase in interest rates. So we have to think, is aggregate demand or aggregate supply going to be affected by the interest rate level? Now, in your textbooks, there are 2 tables, Table 19.1 and Table 19.2. Table 19.1 shows how all different variables will affect the aggregate demand curve, and Table 19.2 shows how all different variables will affect the aggregate supply curve. So it's very important that you know those 2 tables off by heart. Then you will not make a mistake when you're answering questions concerning the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. Now in this case, it is the interest rate level that changes. Now we know that the interest rate affects investment. And we also know that investment is part of aggregate demand, because aggregate demand is equal to consumption plus investment plus government spending plus exports minus imports. Right, now we know that the question says the interest rate level increases. Now you will remember, if we draw the investment function, investment is a function of the interest rate level. And when the interest rate level increases, investment is going to decrease. Why is that? At a lower interest rate, there's going to be more investment than at a higher interest rate level. Why is that? It's because at a higher interest rate level, it's more expensive to finance your investment, so there will be fewer investment projects that will be viable. So we know now, due to the increase in the interest rate level, investment will decrease. So if investment decreases, it means that aggregate demand will also decrease. So to show it on the diagram, the aggregate demand curve will therefore shift to the left. So you have to show the new aggregate demand curve. You have to indicate in what direction it shifts so that we can clearly see you understand that. Now we have to explain the new equilibrium position, where the new aggregate demand curve crosses the aggregate supply curve. That will be your new equilibrium position, and it will be at a lower income level and a lower price level. So why does this happen? Why does the income level decrease? When aggregate demand decreases, producers are going to find that their inventories are increasing. People are not buying the stuff that they have been producing. So therefore, they are going to decrease production, and that is going to lead to a decrease in income. So that is why the income level is going to decrease. When less is produced, we shift downwards along the aggregate supply curve. So when less is produced, it is cheaper to produce it, and therefore the price level also decreases. So what will you get marks for in this question? In the first place, there is 1 mark allocated for the original equilibrium position. But to get that mark, you have to show correctly what is on the vertical axis. So you have to show the price level. You have to show correctly what is on the horizontal axis, and the slopes of your original aggregate supply and aggregate demand curve has to be correct. So that is the first mark. The second mark is for indicating correctly that aggregate demand decreases and that the aggregate demand curve shifts to the left. And then the third mark is for indicating correctly that the price level decreases and the income level decreases. So for the new equilibrium position indicated correctly, that is what the third mark is for.